Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about Matthew Perry's book Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing. Man, what a time to read this book. The feeling from the moment I opened this book till the time I finished the book was so intense. I felt like I had just lost a close friend of mine and immediately got to know that he was keeping a journal all the way along, and I just found his journal and it was in my hand, and I just couldn't stop until I finished reading it. Had I known earlier, before Matty's unfortunate demise, that he had written a book, I would have grabbed that book like a hungry monkey attacking a banana tree. I don't know where to start talking about this book from. I'm talking about our own friend Chandler Bing, who suffered so much so quietly that at the end his own loneliness engulfed him completely. This book is a living memory of who, as a person, Matthew was, written in his own words. This memoir is raw, with Matthew unabashedly owning his own mistakes and explaining to the reader how he constantly kept falling into that dark pit of alcohol addiction, which is the big terrible thing in the title of the book. There were hands to help him, but slowly the grip started falling off or slipping away, and he kept on falling until only his soul could come out, sans his physical body. It pains to know that he was that damaged, and yet he managed to be so funny. In this short 200-page memoir, Matthew bears it all from where the problems started getting its roots. The abandonment of him as a child by his parents, who were getting separated and had both remarried different individuals, and how eventually Matthew, their own son, became an outsider to his own family. The intensity of suffering, Matthew's suffering in this book, was so hard to digest, and my while reading, my mind constantly kept on racing at how much an individual can suffer and fall prey to every abusive substance there is on the face of this earth, and yet manage to be the funniest guy this world has ever seen. Loneliness was Matthew's close friend and remained so until his recent death. Literally swallowed hard at the pages which were written just a year ago, when he made peace with himself and moved on from all his sufferings. And I think that is why fate so kindly decided to end his suffering forever. While reading this book, I was constantly amazed at the amount of mental strength that this person possessed, because he could constantly see light, a hope of seeing light at the end of the dark tunnel that he himself was in since he was a child, and never be suicidal about it. And there are a few incidences which Matthew narrates throughout the book in very detail and correlates them with the seasons of Friends series that he was working on. So constantly there was this thing going on in my mind as to how a person can be in so much pain personally and yet be so funny socially or on stage. He kept all this suffering a secret from the world, and that was the worst part that he did, and he regretted himself about it constantly, and he kept on narrating the same thing in the book, that he would have, if he would have spoken about it in the first place when all this was beginning, then perhaps he would have been in a better mental state presently when he was writing this book. And the worst part is that Matthew wanted to get married and have kids, and yet he ended up living alone in a $1 million penthouse with a view. Because every time he pursued a romantic relationship, he would abruptly end the relationship in fear that he would eventually mess it up. So you can see clearly how the character of Chandler was constantly inspired and improvised by Matthew Perry's own personal life. Fame and money aren't everything until you have it, and that's what Matthew wanted the world to know. The last chapter, Batman, was especially hard to get through without shedding a tear because in this chapter he acknowledges his gratitude to each and every person who helped him or just, you know, was there for him in his tough times. This memoir will be a lasting memory of my Chandler being the funniest guy in the group. Sadly, watching these interviews and rewatching Friends will never be the same again for me now that I know this guy so close personally. But I'm happy that for him, working on Friends was one of his happiest memories in the life that he lived. And right there was my closure for this awesome man, Matthew Perry. Could I be more hyped?